Hello, this is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill to answer any questions you may have, like I do every month, from my stationary treadmill now, after a couple of people complained about seasickness. But for those of you unfamiliar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world, so busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings to new videos and articles I upload nearly every day to my nonprofit site, NutritionFacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no commercial sponsorships, strictly non-commercial, no corporate sponsorships, no kickbacks. Just put it up as a public, no ads, no nothing. Put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. Let us get to your questions. First question. What do I recommend for third-line treatment for H.pylori if it fails? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by third-line treatment. Typical treatments are, there's the clarithromycin triple therapy with a proton pump inhibitor and two different types of antibiotics. There's also a bismuth quadruple therapy and all sorts of concomitant therapies. Usually goes on for 10 to 14 days. If you're still on, let me know what you've done, and I can offer some suggestions as to what to do more of. All right, next up, from Ellen asking, the store's frozen kale, broccoli, cauliflower all seems cooked and soft enough to eat once defrosted without me cooking. How long they blanch them before freezing? How long do you cook them? So yes, they are blanched. You have to stop the enzymes, otherwise those vegetables would rot in your freezer. So look, you don't have to cook them at all. You could eat raw broccoli, like forget the frozen, like raw broccoli, raw cauliflower, right? And so you can eat blanched cauliflower or broccoli, basically eat them however, in whichever way will get you to eat the most of them. You like them microwaved, you like them, cooked. I mean, it's probably the easiest way, or throw them in some marinara sauce for pasta, or mix them in with some, bean mush for some, enchiladas or something, whatever you want to do. You don't have to cook them at all. But if you want, you cook them until you like them. The only exception really is tempura. You really don't want to deep fry anything. That's the one. Yeah, let's not do that. All right, next up. In the app, how can the same portion of raw cooked vegetables be equivalent when cooked vegetables are much more concentrated and fresh or mostly water? Actually, cooked vegetables are mostly water. Even if you air fry them and they dehydrate a little bit and get a little limp and crispy, it's still about 80% water. And so, yeah, it's basically, the only exception is the leafy greens. Leafy greens really can cook down. And so they usually do the kind of 2 cups to 1 cup. But a cup of cooked broccoli and a cup of raw broccoli, basically about the same amount of broccoli. Next up, from Kiradad. Can I please discuss ALA, DHA, EPA? What are the plant-based sources, and which one you need to supplement daily, and what does it do to the body? Okay, so these are all examples of omega-3 fatty acids. There are 2 types of essential fats, meaning our body can't make them. We need to get them into our diet. One is the omega-6s, one is the omega-3s. Omega-6s are kind of found everywhere, so I typically don't have to worry about it. In fact, if anything, you want to kind of not get too many omega-6s by staying away from junky oils like cottonseed oil, corn oil, safflower oil, and sunflower oil. But the omega-3s are found in fewer places, and so the healthiest, probably the easiest source is ground flax seeds. Extremely concentrated. You can get about 2.2 grams of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, the short chain omega-3s, in just a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, which is the daily kind of recommendation. And so that's what I recommend in my daily dozen checklist. And then in terms of DHA and EPA, your body has enzymes that can take the ALA and elongate them to the long chain omega-3s, DHA, and EPA. The question is, can it do it enough for optimal health? And it turns out everyone's enzyme system is different. And so we're not really sure. And so, and there's evidence that if you take people with low DHA levels, for example, and you randomize them to DHA or placebo, you can actually get improvements in cognition, suggesting that they did not have optimal DHA. And so typically you hear about omega-3s in heart health, but unfortunately those we have almost universally the fish oil trials have almost universally flopped for cardiovascular disease. Another number of huge trials recently. For cognition, particularly in older men, but older men and women, we need to long chain omega-3s may be important for our cognition. So I encourage people to consider taking 250 milligrams of preformed DHA, algae-based or pollutant-free DHA, which is made from an algae source. So you don't have to worry about some of the toxins found in fish oils. For cognition later in life. And I've got a lot of videos about those if you have any other questions. Next up, I claim that everybody should be supplementing with vitamin D. No, I didn't. That's not a true statement. But what about those with the right level of vitamin D? So vitamin D supplementation is only necessary for people getting inadequate sun exposure. I am a homebody. I live inside. I don't get out much because I'm so busy. It's in front of my computer all day. And so when I got my D levels tested, this is a long time ago, my vitamin D levels were those of the institutionalized elderly, meaning like people locked up in nursing homes who never get any sun. No surprise that I didn't get any sun. So I could either go outside and with skin as light as mine, get even just 10, 15 minutes on forearms and face to get enough vitamin D to last me during the day. But that's 10, 15 minutes. I could be inside working. If I take my laptop outside, the sun's rays, glare off my screen. I can't be. So I'm still inside. I just supplement with vitamin D. And if you have a lower level of vitamin D, obviously you're getting enough. Otherwise, you don't need to supplement. All right. I'm glad we made that clear. Next up. This is from Annie. How much fresh rosemary is beneficial per day? I have a video talking about half a cup of dried was beneficial, but too much had the opposite effect. Wonder if it's the same ratio for fresh. Ooh, good question. Good question. Well, I would presume it would be the same for fresh. Basically, the only difference in general between dried spices and fresh spices are just water content. With the exception of ginger, dried ginger the drying process that takes fresh ginger to dried ginger actually produces different compounds. These dehydration products of gingerols, the primary kind of spicy ginger flavor in ginger, is something called shoujils, which is from Japanese for ginger, and actually has more beneficial effects in the dried form that you miss out when you just get fresh ginger. Anyway, so that's kind of interesting. But I've seen no such evidence for any other herb or spice out there, and so presumably dried and fresh rosemary would be very similar. So I wouldn't eat too much, but I don't know how rosemary is kind of like maybe not desert plant, but it's a very dry shrub. So I don't think there's got to be much difference in weight between dried and fresh. But you could weigh it and find out and try to get that same half teaspoon a day worth. What helps against vitreous floaters? Talking about little bleeding into one's eyeball. And so you see little dots floating around. You need to go see your ophthalmologist to make sure you don't have a retinal tear or something very serious going on. That would be the most important thing. And then, of course, treat the cause. Next up, is it bad to have two teaspoons of vinegar with every glass of water? I like the taste, but I think it's affecting my teeth. Okay, good, very good point. The downside of vinegar in any kind of acidic, sour fruit or beverage is that it can soften your enamel. And so all you have to do is so I like that you're diluting vinegar. You never want to have vinegar straight and burn your esophagus. And I think I recommend 2 teaspoons of vinegar 3 times a day for AMPK activation, for weight loss, and all sorts of other benefits. So that you could certainly do, but anytime you have any kind of sour fruit or beverage, you have to rinse your mouth out with plain water afterward to rinse the acids off your teeth. And what you certainly don't want to do is brush right after having like a vinegar drink or any kind of sour drink, like hibiscus tea or something, because your pore enamel is in a softened state, and then you all that friction, you're gonna hurt your enamel even worse. So you'd want to wait at least an hour after sour foods and beverages before brushing your teeth. And most importantly, anytime you eat or drink anything sour, you just rinse your mouth out with plain water, no vinegar in it, to rinse the acids off your teeth, and then you are good to go. Next up is Therese saying, have I ever seen anyone halt or reverse dry macular degeneration using a whole food plant-based diet? That is not something that I've seen. I guess we could do a quick PubMed search. It's not something I've run across. Oh, well, there's about 100. There's about 100 articles on diet and the kind of the dry form of age-related macular degeneration. So yeah, I'd have to look through all those, but it looks like there's juicy enough stuff to actually do a video about it. But yeah, it's not something I've looked into previously. Next up, Emily says, regarding my latest videos about bananas and smoothies, can I talk about whether freeze-dried bananas are okay? Absolutely, they're okay. In fact, I just ordered some. I have been missing banana flavor. I don't, not for smoothies. For smoothies, more kind of my summertime breakfast for me. But as it gets chillier, I move over to my oat groats. My like chocolate covered cherry kind of berry mix, pumpkin seed, oat groat, blah blah blah, and missed the banana flavor. And so I got freeze-dried bananas. So now these are not dry bananas, because usually they're dried and sweetened. No, these are just freeze-dried bananas, one ingredient. Found a cheap source, and it's delicious and right. And they're not, you don't have to worry about the enzyme, because freeze-drying process stops the enzyme. You can see that they're now brown. And so you can get all the banana flavor you want. Presumably you could blend them into smoothies. You do whatever you want to do with them. And look, you could snack on them. You get all the bananas you want without the polyphenol oxidase. And one other tip while I'm on it is I've discovered the magic of Syrian pumpkin seeds. If you've been eating pumpkin seeds, you may not know about Syrian pumpkin seeds, which are evidently from a different variety of pumpkin, and they are bigger, juicier, darker, more delicious. And check them out. Oh my God, I will never go back to plain pumpkin seed. Anyway, all right, next up. That's very nice, Rindy. Chris Green says, I have a tablespoon of flaxseed and a tablespoon of chia seeds with my breakfast. Great. Could that be considered a satisfactory amount of omega-3s? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, well, certainly enough to get your ALA, your recommended amount of omega-3s for the day. So you get you hit the minimum, but whether or not that is going to optimally give you optimum omega-3 levels, I think is still a unanswered research question, and I would encourage you to consider supplementing with 250 milligrams of preformed algae-based DHA in addition to continuing your flax regimen. The chia is unnecessary, but has all sorts of wonderful things like fiber in it as well, and so go for it. Do I have any advice for balding and older women? I do have multiple chapters in my latest book, How Not to Age, on menopausal symptoms as well as preserving your hair, and talk about some of the reversible causes like hypothyroidism. And so go to your local public library and check it out. How Not to Age. Okay, Jillian says, Dr. Greger, love your stuff. That's very nice. Oh, here, I'm going to open this up. If you love it, do you use any oil in cooking? For instance, a spray oil for browning tofu slices. So I don't use oil in my cooking, any oil in my cooking. Um, I once said that I had no oil in my house, but then I was corrected. But I had it for some industrial process. I forget what it was. What was I using oil for? I don't know. It wasn't to eat. Um, but yeah. If you are going to use oil, you would use extra virgin olive oil. The nutrient composition of canola oil looks good on paper, but unfortunately, the deodorization process produces compounds like acrolein. And actually, canola oil produces more acrolein than other oils, and which is a toxic, possibly carcinogenic compound. And so if you were going to use oil, extra virgin olive oil is kind of like the least refined. Yeah, we ideally we wouldn't be browning tofu slices just because the formation of advanced glycation end products. Still, when you take any high protein, high fat food and expose it to high dry heat temperatures, you get AGE formation. They're not good for you. Found predominantly in high dry heat cooked meats like hot dogs and bacon, things like that. But you can get a dramatic increase. You can get with like Cajun fried tofu or something, Cajun blackened tofu, or when you roast nuts and seeds. Still not as high as like eating a grilled hot dog or something, but yeah, I would encourage people not to use moist methods of cooking like steaming or boiling or poaching or that kind of thing. So make tofu soup, that would be better than anything that turns it brown, unfortunately, because that just makes it delicious. Okay. Oh, I think I lost my place on. And see, at some point, so many questions come in that I'm no longer able to do them in order because I'm way down at the bottom of the list, but I'll just click the next one, which is from Chris saying, how far in advance can we cut up fruit for meal prepping without losing too much nutrition? It's not really about losing nutrition. There are food safety issues with melon that you're keeping at room temperature that you cut up before. So yeah, there's kind of microbial growth issues after a while. But yeah, it's really not about losing nutrition, of course, with the exception of those polyphenol oxidase fruits and vegetables like white mushrooms and bananas where they start browning. So, and you can get pre-chopped, mango, frozen mango or something, without a problem. And if it gets you to eat more mango, then that's good. So yeah, it's really only kind of a food safety thing. You don't want to just kind of leave, once the protective outer shell of fruits and vegetables is cut into, they exist. Look, you're having an apple sitting on a tree, not just at room temperature, but like in the sun all day. Why doesn't it rot? That's because it's protected. But as soon as you cut it open, then bacteria can get in there and start the rotting process. So yeah, that's the only thing I would be concerned about, not so much loss of nutrition. Okay, Martin says, have I done any research on? Oh, such a great question. Cool. Those are both on my list. So my next book is How Not to Hurt, which is diet and lifestyle approaches to pain management, and I am going to be looking at infrared light therapy. As I don't know if I'm going to do cold plunging, but before the book, I start writing the book in March. There's a bunch of topics that I want to do videos about, and cold plunging is one of them because there's actually a rich literature on it. I don't know if it's good, bad, or neutral, but I will find out and hopefully have time to do those videos before I start my next book. Okay, do I eat pumpkin seeds raw? Yes, I do. I get weird tasting burps when I eat raw seeds. Are they rancid seeds? Have the seeds been out for a while? I don't know. That's my first thought. And that if you had nice fresh seeds, that probably wouldn't happen. But maybe you just, I don't know, something about seed burps don't agree with you. All right. I don't want to pronounce this name and hurt it, but is it good for a vegan athlete to take 2 grams of presumably protein per kilogram body weight. No, Jesus, that's more than twice as much as you need. I recommend 0.8 grams per healthy kilogram body weight, as does the World Health Organization, as does the National Academy of Sciences. Yeah. Okay, well, what is on the menu for the Greger household today? Well, what did I eat today? So I did my oat groats with mixed berries and mango. And I ran out of fresh blackberries, so I just used frozen and mixed frozen berries with my Syrian pumpkin seeds, ground flax, wheat germ, barberries, tart cherry powder, cranberry powder, and strawberry powder, which I have left over from my speaking tour, which I would put in the Holiday Inn oatmeal. But now I have all this fruit powder left over that I put in stuff. What else? And then dark chocolate balsamic vinegar, some cocoa powder, some cardamom. Yeah. That's it. That's delicious. Okay, so that was breakfast. For lunch, I had leftovers, which was just basically whole wheat spaghetti with lots of vegetables and tomato sauce. So you just take canned, no salt added tomatoes. Have these wonderful wonderful tomatoes I found. And then just clean out the fridge and put every vegetable. I had zucchini in it, had bell pepper in it, had lots of kale in it, and then just lots of spices. I like it spicy, so kind of arrabbiata. So hot pepper flakes. It's a great way to make things spicy without adding salt from a hot sauce. What else is in that sauce? I don't know. Anyway, so that was lunch, and supper is TBD. All right, next up, Liana says, "Thank you for all I do." Oh, that's nice. Any chance you have a version of How Not to Die that's under a different title? I want a relative to read it, but they're turned off by the title. Yeah, I mean, you can rip the title. Well, I guess it's on like every page, probably at the bottom or something. I was saying you can rip the title page off. Yeah, no, sorry. I do have a How Not to Die 10th anniversary edition coming out next year. Can you believe it's been 10 years? And so you may want to wait for the updated edition, but unfortunately, it will still have the same title. I wouldn't say unfortunately. It's been really successful, sold over 1 million copies. But I could see how the title could be a little much for people. Okay, is it okay to mix creatine with an acidic smoothie, or should it be consumed isolated? I don't know about any problem with taking creatine with any kind of acidic substance, but maybe you know something I don't know. Lainey, maybe. That's very sweet. What are my thoughts on lithium, CBD, and taurine? Taurine is on my list, on my high priority list, along with the cold plunging of video topics I want to cover before I head off into the next book land. I have a whole series on cannabis and what was out there for CBD, which is not much. And then I know lithium certainly as a treatment for bipolar disease, but don't know that particular lithium salt. But yeah, so I cannot comment on it, unfortunately. Okay, Miko says, I wonder if you replace most fat and protein intake with nuts. I don't understand the question. Could you? I mean, nuts don't have that much protein. I still want people to get legumes every day. I still want people to eat whole grains. I would not live off nuts. Luca says, I've been considering adding yogurt and little fish in my plant-based diet. How would that not improve my whole food plant-based diet? Well, you may be adding some persistent organic pollutants, some mercury, some saturated butterfat, So, the dairy microRNAs, the galactose, although in yogurt, the galactose should be eaten up. I mean, it's those are potential, I guess, and there's food safety issues with fish, blah blah blah. But so I don't think those are necessary. But you still would be eating better than 99.9% of people, at least here in the United States. What have I seen about nitro oleic acid? Nitro oleic? I've never heard of nitro oleic. Is that something I should know? Nitro oleic. Nitro oleic acid. I do not know about nitro oleic acid, but it sounds like it is actually a thing. It's an endogenously produced pleiotropic modulator. Okay. Yep. I've never heard of it. So I'm sorry, I cannot comment. How much arugula or beets plus olive oil would be clinically significant? I assume those are sources of such a thing. I do not know. Next up, how long of a colonic how fast? A colonic transit time is too fast. And also, how would having celiac change the ideal time frame? Oh, that's a good question. So ideally, we want typically shorter is better. We want to eat enough high fiber containing foods, natural foods, such that our food doesn't kind of sit around in our colon, and the protein doesn't putrefy, and we pull out all the excess bile acids and excess estrogen, excess cholesterol, and blah blah blah, all sorts of benefits of higher colonic transit time. In terms of colorectal cancer risk, the faster things move through you, you can eat some beets and measure, see how long it takes for things to turn pretty and pink. But is there like too fast? Well, there certainly is for there's like some bariatric surgery. If you have your anatomy rearranged, you can get this kind of dumping syndrome where things move a little too fast. Presumably, right, if you have cholera or something, things are just going right through you. That's not a good thing. But I don't think it's actually been quantified. Like, you don't want to go under a certain amount. But presumably it wouldn't be the time itself, but rather the underlying pathology that would lead to such a fast movement. I don't know how celiac would mess with that. Fiber. We just probably get to so Lee says fiber. Yeah. Should we aspire to get triple digits? So they're talking about triple digit grams of fiber a day. Why triple digits? Because that's what we got. That's what our Paleolithic ancestors got based on fossilized feces. That means eating extraordinary amounts of whole plant foods a day, only really reached in modern times by those living in rural Africa in the middle of the last century. And they had some of the best public health statistics in human history in terms of, they had no epidemic heart disease, rheumatoid arthritis, diverticulosis, colorectal cancer, kind of on down the list of all these kind of diseases of Western civilization. They did not have epidemic levels like we do here. But it may not have been the fiber. It may have been all the other wonderful things in plant foods. You can get really up around I think Ornish, with a whole food plant-based diet, got up around 68 grams of fiber a day. Basically the minimum is around 30, kind of the recommended daily minimum, and a really good whole food plant-based diet get you up in the 60s, and then but our bodies evolved getting even higher than that. And I think that was actually accomplished in that Jenkins study where they had people eat I forget what it was, 20 something servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Although fruits and vegetables are mostly water, so it's possible they didn't get some of the drier, higher fiber foods like whole grains and legumes, which really would have bumped their fiber up. So I'm not sure exactly what. So I don't know if it's actually been put to the test in modern times, but that is definitely what our gut physiology is used to. And we don't want to starve our microbial selves. Unfortunately, I am out of time for the time being. I hope everybody has an absolutely wonderful week. Let me know if anybody has any questions about anything. I'm always happy to help. And we have exciting webinar coming up on Ozempic. And so make sure you're signed up to my free email newsletter through NutritionFacts.org to get pinged as to when that will be. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye for now. Eat your broccoli.